Good afternoon guys, Dark Purple Shadow here, and today we're talking about the Gamers Nexus expose of NZXT and specifically my personal opinion as to what's happening and the more systemic issues around what's going on with just the economy at large and how people are ending up having to purchase things and the direction a lot of consumer products are taking. Now I'm going to link that video by Gamers Nexus down below, but a little overview about what's happened. NZXT is a company who make computer parts. I have some NZXT products such as an old RGB kit I bought back in 2016. At the time it wasn't old, it was brand new. It still works perfectly. When NZXT first came on the block, they were amazing. They made some of the best products in the business and I still think they do make some good products. However, the direction they're going down now is building entire systems. Unfortunately for the end user, this has put them in a position where they're offering a computer lease scheme. Now this is as silly as it sounds. Unfortunately, the lease scheme is not fair at all. It's rather predatory and Gamers Nexus goes into specific detail as to why it is predatory. Now, leases, as far as I'm aware, aren't as regulated as credit agreements to the consumer. However, they work similarly. Essentially, you're paying installments for a product. Unfortunately, with leases, you don't own that product at the end. Now, the PC leases is a brand new thing. I don't know if anybody else does it, but yeah, NZXT are doing it and they're doing it terribly and now they're in trouble. Let me talk to you about what my opinion is around the bigger issue around what's happened. Now, let's circle back. Let's go back to a long time ago, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Before I was born, probably the time when your parents were baby, maybe even before that. Now, during this time, you could probably buy a house with cash. However, the mortgage was being invented. The mortgage is a financial instrument where people can purchase property without putting down the entire value of the property up front and having a rather large loan attached to that property. Unfortunately, as soon as this finance was available, the price of property, at least in the UK, and I'm sure similar things happened in the US of A and Canada and all these other places, because housing is a worldwide problem, right? But the price of property in the UK has increased from the late 1970s all the way up until now, to the point where even getting a mortgage is a minor miracle. The deposits you put down on mortgages in the UK now are more than the properties costed 30, 40, 50 years ago. And obviously inflation's part of that, but a lot of these properties have increased many times more than inflation has. And wage growth, let's not even talk about that. The average wage is barely 20-30% higher than it was 10 years ago, if you're lucky. I feel like that is a very generous point as well. I feel like it's more like 10% higher than it was 10 years ago, when property has near enough doubled. Now, let's get back to the entire point about what's happened. Gamers Nexus basically told us that NZXT is offering leasing computers, is giving people an option to buy computers when they can't afford them. This isn't a credit agreement, and I'm sure credit agreements for computers do exist, but essentially it's selling you a large purchase in smaller chunks. What this will do eventually is it will allow more people to demand those products, and essentially you'll be fighting off not only people who want to buy the computer products, which are finite in number and limited in supply, you'll be fighting companies who are hoarding these computer products to basically rent them out to you. It will turn into what the housing market has become in the UK. Another case study for this is the vehicular market, or the automobile market, as they say in America. Automobile. But in the UK, would you say cars, innit? So the car market in the UK has had a similar trend, and this one's more recent. If you're around my age, around late 20s, early 30s, you know, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, a lot of people would pay outright cash for their brand new cars. Maybe they'll take a small loan against it, but nowadays, to get a new car, you effectively need to engage in some sort of finance. I have a brand new car and I've got a lease on it. Unfortunately, it was the only way for me to get a relatively new car and I didn't have to put much money down initially. It wasn't a bad deal because I do my research, but regardless, essentially I don't own a vehicle, I rent one out. I do own a house though, which I'd prefer to do. But anyway, I don't own a vehicle, I rent one out. A similar process is happening with computers. The problem here is when you engage a larger number of people with these products, you basically increase the demand for it. If only 10% of the population can afford to buy a gaming PC outright, but then you allow people to take PCs out on credit or rent them out, and now 50% of people can now buy this item, effectively the price and the demand will increase, and this will encourage companies to start hoarding these products so they can bloody rent them out to you later on. Now, this is really upsetting, but it's also the way things are going. Unfortunately, the actual things people want in life, such as computers, vehicles, houses, mobile phones, for example, they're becoming more and more difficult to attain outright in cash because the spending of the average person is being eroded away by things such as rent, mortgage, bills, electricity bills in the UK, for example. I'm paying upwards of £250 a month this winter, probably more. just to keep my house not cold, and I don't have a choice because I have a baby. So yeah, it's a crazy world we're in, and my personal idea is if you give these companies an inch, they will take a mile. And the way NZXT is moving, it's not a surprise. Now, the final point I'm going to make is the fact that these scrappy young companies are so great, but then as soon as they start getting bigger, they become some sort of evil conglomerate who wants to suck the life out of you. There's no coincidence to it. Essentially, you have investors. Investors are the people who allow a company to go from $1 million in revenue to 500 million, hypothetically, probably not that much, but 100 million, yeah? They allow companies to scale up, and scalability is something you hear a lot in business. Unfortunately, you can't scale up without capital. The people who give capital are usually evil, old, geriatric, rich, the 1%, let's just say, the sort of people who are sucking the life out of the economy. Now, these investors, shareholders, these necrotic, evil beings, all they want is to increase their bottom line and get a return on their investment. I don't blame them. That's just how capitalism works. And capitalism, I'm not talking about politics here. This is just the way capitalism works. Capital causes growth and expects a return. Cool. The problem is they change the goals of the company. The company's goal is now not a long-term cultivation of consumers who want to buy their products. The company's goal is to increase the returns of the shareholders. And then you have situations like what you have with what Gamers Nexus realized with NZXT. And now you have companies which are essentially preying on the people that have been buying their products for years. And in the case of this scandal, it looks like they're preying on young people who know NZXT is a good brand. Essentially, they're trading their goodwill in for scamming you in the short term. And I'll be honest, it's not sustainable. And a lot of times the shareholders know this is not sustainable, but they just want to make their money back and leave and go on to the next venture. Yeah, it never works. Long term, people clock onto it, and if it does work, then we're in trouble. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Tell me what you guys think. Obviously, this is a bit more of a dissection of the economic malaise that's kind of an overture over our kind of gaming scene. But unfortunately, when it comes to expensive items, there will always be people trying to make money off those people who are willing to spend money on them. And it's sad to say, sometimes it's probably just better to buy Nvidia stock than an Nvidia graphics card right now. But yeah, this is not financial advice. Peace. Yes guys, it's Dark Purple Shadow here. Please hit the like button. Please make sure you comment your opinions. I want to hear them. I engage with everything I can, and try and subscribe if you enjoy the content too. More insights coming soon. Tech, gaming, whatever, I'm down.